Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 4K podcast. We got a special guest here with us today. She goes by the name Shay. We know her as Siobhan. She is a writer, a creator, a multi-dimensional healing artist, and she just explores what it means to be human. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Siobhan.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. What a
Welcome,
warm
welcome.
welcome. Thank you. I'm
Yes,
happy to be here.
thank you. We're
Happy
happy.
to
We're
have
happy
you.
for having you. So what we're doing here now for the 4K podcast, we'll bring some guests on here and there just to have a story time segment or a special category or topic that we'll bring up and discuss with someone else that's very near and dear to us. Um as far as story time, Siobhan, we had a story you wanted to bring up, and I guess we'll segue into whatever happens after that.
All right. Just jumping right in.
Yeah, just jump
Then,
right in.
Yeah, I did have a story. It's a eerie one. But it's one that is close to my heart. It's one that I find myself revisiting often. And it's one I love sharing because I don't know, I think it just says so much. And it's about my mom who transitioned when I was 18. And literally a couple of days after that happened, her smart ass found a way to hack like hack our answer machine and change the voicemail greeting somehow, some way. I know y'all remember this.
mhm.
And she left a message that said goodbye, goodbye, I love you. um and I remember hearing it and being like, no way, like I did not hear what I just heard. And I remember like having people call the phone, like call the house and be like, listen to this message and like you tell me what you hear. I'm not going to tell you what to hear. I'm not going to influence you in any way. And like everyone heard the same thing. And I think about that story a lot because it says so much about like what we think of life, what we think of death, what we think of like the beyond, and how we communicate with those who have transitioned, those we have lost, those who just simply don't have a physical body but clearly live on. And I think before that point, I thought, you know, I don't know. I always believed in like the spiritual and all that kind of stuff, but there's a part of it when you watch people like Miss Cleo, is that her name? Was that psychic? Call me now. Is her name
Yeah,
Miss Cleo? Like stuff
that's
like
crazy.
that. Those psychics online and all this kind of stuff that people be scamming. There's a fantastical element of that where it's like, that's not real. You know what I'm saying? And I even just think of like what we think of as death, God, source, the beyond, whatever you want to call it. It's so great. It's like beyond words. And so, yeah, that was just a story and a moment in my life where I was like, oh, like this is real. Like this is real. This is expansive. There is something that happens after this temporary stay on this planet. And that bio that Cliff so beautifully read is how I summarize myself. I always get a little nervous when people ask me who I am because I'm like, there's no words for it. Like I'm all of it. But yeah, I come back to that story because it's such a like anchoring point. And I always say that my mom's death like initiated me into life. Like she continues to teach me every single day what life is and isn't. And yeah, that's my opening story, just coming in hot. So yeah, thanks y'all for the space to share it.
Yeah, no doubt. That was perfect. That was perfect. And I remember that moment vividly, uh, listening to that voicemail and hearing those words. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, damn, I really heard that.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
it was crazy. It was crazy. And it was like there was no denying it. It wasn't like, oh, maybe that's what
Right,
it
right.
said, or like, it was kind of staticky. It was a clear message. And I think that speaks to like the amount of love she had for us, that her spirit found a way to be like, I'm gonna get, can I curse on here by the way?
Absolutely.
Okay. She found a way to be like, I'm gonna find a fucking way to tell my family that I love them. And I know I left abruptly. I know it was a quick departure, but I'm gonna find a way to like communicate. And yeah, I think that just speaks to like the intelligence of like the people we love. you know,
Mhm.
and that the journey doesn't stop with the physical. And so I'm glad you remember that moment, because also when I think about grief and loss and all that kind of stuff too, I think about the people that are still holding the people that we've lost, you know, still holding those stories and like
Right.
the different angles. Like I probably remember something different than Ricky, than Cliff.
Yeah.
And I think that's, yeah, it's really beautiful. That glue that like keeps it all together. So I'm glad you remember that.
Speaking of
To
something, I like that post you did a few weeks ago.
Oh, which one?
How you talked about how she when she worked at American Express, but she had stole the computers for the hood.
Reparations. Okay, you want to think about
Yeah,
my mom?
I was
Like
dying when I saw that.
reparations. Yeah, shout out to my mom. Like she, man, I know people when we lose people, we say like that person had an assignment and it was done. And that was my mom. She lived life. She came in here. She was like, I'm about to fuck shit up. Like, I'm about to laugh. I'm about to party my way through this shit. And I'm a peace out because I did what I had to do.
That's
And she went out with a bang. And like, she was bold. She was wild. She was embarrassing. And it's like all these elements I only appreciate now as an adult. Of course, as a teenager, I'm like, oh, you're so embarrassing. But like now I'm like, yo, that was a bomb ass woman. That was a bomb ass spirit. That was a bomb ass soul. And
Facts.
I feel lucky that I had her for 18 years, you know? It,
Yeah.
it, it feels short sometimes, but I'm like, I had her, you know? So yeah, shout out to my mom stealing laptops from white men and redistributing it to the hood. Reparations, you know, American government could never. I mean, legend, legend.
yeah, absolutely. To bring a little my recollection into the story, I remember someone was calling the house phone, their house phone, and I guess the reason they wanted to, the reason you heard it, I guess, was because they wanted you to change it or delete her name or her voice because they were uncomfortable hearing it still, and that's when you went into it and heard it. And I remember upon playing it, o- only certain people seemed to hear clearly what she was saying. Other people didn't hear anything at all, and we were like, "Oh, maybe the message just wasn't for you."
It definitely was not for those people who
Yeah,
did not
Mm.
hear it.
and I remember, um, I think it was grandma's idea. She wanted to take it to Maury or something like that. And once
John
we tried
Edwards
to
or
save
something.
it, yeah, I remember once we tried to save it, it just disappeared.
Yep.
He was like, "Y'all not gonna not
Yep.
gonna kill me off."
Yep. So my mom, what a troll, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna do
Right.
this brilliant thing. Y'all gonna hear it, and guess what? That's it. That's
that's
all y'all get.
it. We were like, "Oh, the world gotta hear this," and she was like, "No, they don't."
Yep. I
Classic.
remember that moment clearly. Yeah, and it's like at that moment, I was like, "Fuck!" Like I really wanted to keep it. First of all, we could have been rich. Like who would, you know, that could have been
Right.
that could have been some money. But like, I also think like moments like that, experiences like that, are meant to be short lived. You know, it's meant to be this thing where it's like we heard it, we know what we heard. We don't need John Edwards, like to be like
It served its
right.
purpose.
It served its purpose. It served its purpose, and it did what it had to do. And I think there's beauty to that. There's beauty to, yeah, remembering that things don't last forever and people don't last forever. You know, it's sad too, but I think there's a beauty to it.
Memories live on,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
imprint that they leave on you in your life. It's crazy because as long as it was, there's still so many little things that pop up, and I just remember or I think about her, or it's just the wildest, weirdest little thing sometimes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same here.
Yeah. Also for those that don't know, because we are cousins, so I don't know, we like getting right into the camaraderie, but my mom is I say is, I use present tense, is an aunt to Ricky and Cliff.
Hmm.
And so yeah, what are some of y'all like favorite memories, or like as nephews, like how
L-
did you see my mom?
let me tell you something.
Okay, I'm listening. Let me lean in.
I am still chasing that strawberry shortcake high. That strawberry shortcake high. I've been chasing that high for a long time. And none of them are comparable.
Thank you for saying that, Ricky. No, I really appreciate you saying that because if anyone knew my mom like on the outside, you would never think that she knew how to bake. Like that was not, if I showed you a picture, like it was not in her demeanor seemingly, but she did. And strawberry shortcake and peach cobbler were her specialties. And I'm so glad you remember that. Again, like we need people to hold on to the stories and
Yeah.
to the memories. Yeah.
I just remember her being so upfront and in your face and no apologies about anything, and it was just something I really appreciated about her. I remember uh, wanting to like go to your house so often and spend weekends or whatever there, just to get away, and it felt like a little mini vacation, I guess, from my life sometimes. And
Mhm.
she
Hmm.
never did anything special. She never really like I can't even explain it, but it was just like so nice just being in that environment with her.
She
Yeah.
And
always she always made sure we all came over there at least once a year and
Yeah.
stayed. So yeah, that was dope.
Yeah. Oh.
I remember her drinking Arbor Mist, was it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Arbor
Yeah.
fucking mess, man.
I
Yeah.
If I would
remember,
have bought stock in that company, ciao, money.
but I remember like that being my first taste of liquor or whatever as a kid. Just asking for it. She's like, "Here, try this."
Hmm.
You're like, "Okay, why not?"
As an auntie should, yes.
Yeah. And it was funny because like I remember the first time I was she was drinking and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And she didn't even tell me what it was. She said, "Here, just try it." And I was just like, "Okay, sure." And I tasted it. And I was like, "Oh, it's okay. It wasn't bad." And I was like, "Okay, well, yeah."
Hmm. Oh yeah, she
Arbor
did that to
Mist.
everybody.
Yeah. And
She did
those
that.
50-cent Cobra beers. Remember those?
Oh, that my pops used to love,
Yes.
man.
Hmm.
Oh my God.
And don't forget the straw either.
Right.
You forget his straw for his King
Don't
Cobra,
forget
man. He
that
would be
straw.
pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. Those beers. Wow.
So with her passing, how was it dealing with the trauma in the very beginning, and
Hmm.
what do you attribute your transition the most into just being who you are after the trauma?
Yeah. I love this question. I'll be honest with you. They say there's 5 stages to grief, which to me is total bullshit. There are way more stages, and there's no logical order. But I will say that first stage, denial, yeah, they got that one right. They got that one right. I think because I was so young, I was in such a state of shock. And adult me looks back and I'm like, yo, I don't know how I got through that. Like, I have no idea. Like, the fact that I went to school the next day. Like, what?
Oh, you
Who
did?
does that? Yeah,
I
Oh
didn't
yeah, I
even
didn't
know
know
that.
that.
I sure did. I was like, well, I'm just yeah, I gotta go to school. But like looking back, I think I was just in a state of like denial and shock, and probably looking for something that I knew as safety, which was school. I'm just like pretend to be normal, you know. And to be honest, like I didn't really process my grief until I would say at least 5 years later. Because my mom died when I was 18, like 2 weeks before my high school graduation, right? A month after that, I got my first job. And then a month after that, I was off to college. I was like, I gotta get
See,
these grades. I gotta get this financial aid. I gotta like pay for these classes. I gotta go to grad school. Like grief. I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have time for that. And so I just ignored it. I suppressed it. And I don't know. On one end, I would say, well, that's unhealthy, but on the other end, it's like grief doesn't have any logical order. It like whatever way you cope, whatever way it comes through, even if it's denial, even if it's suppression, that was part of my journey, you know? And I
Right.
think once I graduated school and I came back home, whew, let me tell you, that shit that I was ignoring in the back of my head, it was like, finally, all right, like you got some space now. Here we go. Like that's when it started to like become a part of my life, and I was like, all right, I'm ready. Like I have the space now. Um, and even like before my mom transitioned, I had been in therapy, so that was something that helped a lot. But I mean, even early on, there was a lot of moments when like I wasn't honest with my therapist because I wasn't ready to talk about it. I was young, and I think I was also looking around at my other peers. I didn't know anyone my age who had lost a parent. I didn't know anyone who had been through that. Also think that there's a lot of like stigma in the Black family in terms of how to grieve. No shade to religious folks, but they tend to say things like, well, they went home with the Lord,
Yeah,
right? And like it
Yeah.
was their time to go. And I'm like, that's all you got for me? Like, like
yeah, that don't
on
fly.
on one end, like I'm glad that that's comforting for some folks, but on the other end, it could be like an avoidance tactic, right? And so I didn't give myself permission to grieve until years later. But once I opened that like can of worms, like man, that was it. It's become like a part of my core. Like I even joke about like me being like goth, right? Like I grew up goth, like but like I don't know, like maybe that was part of the design of my spirit. Like I always use my mom's death and refer to it as an initiation because
Mm.
I wouldn't be who I am now had that not happened. As sad as it is, like I would not have the knowledge, the wisdom, like the emotional range, like all that stuff. I wouldn't have that without her death. And so to me, this is a big part of my life's purpose. It's a big part of my life's work in whatever form that is, whether it's sharing a poem or just sitting down for a chat like this. Like, I'm meant to feel, I'm meant to like cry. I'm meant to, and this is something, yeah, no, I struggle with growing up, like always being the sensitive one, like always crying. But like, that's a beautiful thing. Like, I'm human. That's why Cliff said I'm exploring what it means to be human. And unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, a big part of being human is that we all gonna die. Like we all are gonna have that experience. We're all gonna know someone that transitions, and I think it's a beautiful thing when we can talk about it, when we can feel, and we can like push up against like societal norms of like cutting your feelings off and like not addressing the thing in the room. I'm like, I'm not down for any of that. Like that's not normal to me. That's real robotic. And so yeah, I always say that her loss, like, I don't know, just awakened something in me, and I'm forever changed and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing, well, to give context to those who don't know, my mom passed recently, and Leroy's father passed a couple years ago, and our parents were all siblings, and
Hmm.
um, to bring this question to you, Leroy, uh, upon when was the moment you realized that it's real?
Going back to grandma house. Every time I go to grandma house, I feel it.
Hmm.
Just him being there for so long, and then you go back over there and he's not there. So every time I walk in that crib, I be like, all right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's when I
Um,
felt it.
Hmm.
I think I called. I'm not too sure
Yeah, you
which one
did
of you
call
I
me.
called. I called one of you when my moment hit. When um oh, okay, backtrack to one thing when Siobhan said denial. I remember going up to the funeral or her service. I still didn't believe it was her because I still didn't see her yet. And when they pulled the casket out of the truck and we had to carry it into the church, they didn't have enough people to help carry it. So they asked if I would be able to help. So I was like, sure. And people were looking at me funny, like, "Are you sure you can do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
I
sure,
was one of those people.
yeah."
Like, yeah, if y'all don't come get this casket for this man.
Right.
And I remember when the director was going to lift the lid of the casket, she was like, "Are you okay? Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah." And the back of my mind, I kept thinking, "You're gonna lift this lid. I'm gonna look, and I'm saying, that's not my mom. Where is she?" Like I was like, the guy, she might be hiding somewhere, or so, like, it was just so
Yeah.
many weird thoughts that went through my head. But when she lifted it up,
Hmm.
I was just so confused because I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel anything. I just was staring at her. And I remember um there were flowers like in her hair, so I was like trying to readjust her hair, and I was like, no, she would never do her hair like that. So I'm sitting there moving her hair out, and I'm trying to like readjust her body because it shifted, and the director's just looking at me like, are you okay? Like, and I was just like, no, no, I just want her to look good, for everybody. But
Mm.
the real moment when it actually hit me was when her ashes came back from the crematory, and it came in the mail, which feels so impersonal.
Right.
And I remember holding the box, and I took well, her box out of the cardboard box, and I was just standing there, and I was hugging it, and I'm like, wow, like this, the box is 5 pounds or whatever it is, and I'm just like, everything you were is reduced to this little box of ashes. And I remember walking into grandma's room and just staring at her, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I just started nodding, and I'm like, "This is it. This is it. This,
Mm.
this is that moment. It's hitting me." And she was like, "Are you okay?" And I hit the floor, and I just started crying. And she was like, "Just let it out." And I'm like, I can't believe everything just turned into this. Like it
Mhm.
was just so
Right.
weird to me.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I don't think I knew about that moment. I know there's been times when you called me, but yeah, I don't think I knew about that moment. And yeah, she was real. And I think you asked me after your mom passed, like you asked me when was my moment, like maybe almost in preparation or like wanting to know, like, yeah,
Yeah,
what to expect.
because I didn't
Yeah.
have it yet, and I was like, it bothered me that people were waiting for me to break down, waiting for me to cry, waiting for me to like
Hmm.
lose my mind. And I'm like, I'm okay. And it was like no one wanted to accept that. Oh no, you lost your mother suddenly. Like, are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, I'm handling it. Like,
Hmm.
if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Hmm.
Also, to reiterate on mine, the receiving of the flag.
Oh my god,
Yeah, that's
that
when
was deep to
I
me.
Bruh, Ricky,
I think everybody broke down in that moment.
I was good up until then.
yeah, yeah. The Marines came in and did what they had to do.
Yeah.
That little slow thing they did. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and it was super cool for the first 90% of it
Yeah.
until they
Right.
folded the flag and
So they folded it
stood
and
in
came
front of
over to
Ricky.
the
I'm
Yep,
like,
mic,
that
and I was like,
snap.
here you go. Yeah,
I was like, wow, that's deep.
yeah.
yeah. But speaking of your father's service, Ricky, like, did you feel any kind of way of there not being a body at the service? Like in the traditional way that we usually have funerals?
No, I mean, no, not at all.
No.
I think it was better off that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, I didn't feel no type of way about that.
Yeah. I feel
Do
you.
you remember how you found out?
Yeah, you called me.
Oh, shoot. Dang.
You called me. I was at the crib chilling, and you called me like hysterical, but not being overly hysterical so that you could tell me the information and get it out.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's how I found out. You called me and told me.
man.
Yeah.
Now that
Yep.
you said, I'm actually remembering it too. I remember uh, going to the house. Siobhan, were you there before me?
I sure was.
Yeah. And that was just so weird. Because I remember Marvin, his best friend, was the one that
Mm-hmm.
called me. Was like, I think there's something wrong. You need to get up here. And I got up there, and it was, I don't remember who was there before me. I believe Siobhan, you was there.
Hmm.
Grandma was there. Maybe two other
Mark
people.
was there too, I think.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
And yeah, that was just so weird because it's weird because of course you never really expect it.
Right.
It's like, wow, I can't I can't believe it. Then when we saw like the photos and everything else, and it was just like, wow. how do we deal? How do we process? How do we figure out
Yeah.
life? And I remember shortly after feeling guilty because you both lost yours and I still had mine.
Mm.
And I
Mm,
was just like, I felt like if I were to share an experience I had with my mother after that, like it would be like kind of not bragging, but like
Mm.
yeah,
it would
yeah,
be
I get what
touching
you're
a
saying.
sore spot. So I was just like, and that's what made me really reassess my relationship with my mother and try to get closer with her.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's just the craziest thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so real. That's something I, yeah, just like see a lot, like these, what a lot of people call like grief wars, like whether that's internal or like the comparisons that we like put on ourselves, the survivor's guilt, the re-experiencing it. Like I think Cliff was the one that called me and told me about Ricky too. And it was like, I remember I had a moment of like, not again,
Yeah,
yeah,
not again. And it wasn't even my parent, but it was like, it was so close that I was like, what? And I don't remember. Was it you that called me about your mom, Cliff?
hmm,
And I was like, what? Like, not again. So, yeah, there's this like re experiencing. And I don't know if you felt this, Ricky, too, like with Sharon, but it was like, the fuck? Like, and
yeah.
I remember like with Ricky's death specifically, there was like, I don't know, like there were little things that I did. For example, like designing like the funeral programs. Like I was so serious about it because there were certain things I didn't get to do for my mom. And so like I'm still proud of this program. It was really beautiful. But
Right.
I was like, no, I'm gonna design the shit out of this program. Like there was just certain things where I was like, on one end it was like, damn, not again. I gotta go through this again. But I was like, all right, it's coming back around. Like this feeling is coming back around, and like, what can I change this time? What can I see differently? How can I help out? I'm a little older now. I'm not that 18-year-old girl.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know. There was just something about it, about, I don't know, tragedy coming back around, and it's like, this fucking sucks, but also like, what can I see differently? What can I
yeah.
feel differently?
And to compound on one thing you said too, even though he was Leroy's or Ricky's father, in a sense, he was the closest thing you and I both had, Siobhan, to a father,
I was
Yep,
getting ready to say that as well. Yeah,
and that's what
absolutely.
made it so difficult for me as well, because it was like, of course, I lived with him too. He cooked, he made his jokes, and it
right.
was just so many little things. I was just like, wow, like that was so tough to process. And then, as we said before, there's this the stigma of um,
Mhm.
being a man and having to be strong and tough it out through the pain. And it's like,
Fact.
why does it have to? Why do I have to be weak if I'm showing emotion?
Mhm.
Why can't I just
Hmm.
be human?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm glad mental health and vulnerability and sensitivity is kind of being more of a thing that's being brought into the forefront and being more normalized now. So um, now the people who had the stigma of, oh, black people can't go to therapy or men can't go to therapy or um, you're less than because you need help.
Mhm.
It's not like that anymore, and that's like one of the greatest things that our society is actually moving in that direction.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
still, it is on us to figure out, even though it is going in that direction, to jump on board with it, because I still walk a tight rope on both sides. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be sensitive to things sometimes, but I still got to be a strong man in public
Mhm.
or something like that. And it's
yeah. No, absolutely. That
yeah,
is that's a great way to put it because I'm older than you, and I came along before you could even show that type of emotion and all that kind of shit, you know. So it's definitely good to see that people can open up and men can open up and not be looked at a different way for opening up and expressing their feelings and being vulnerable. So yeah, I agree.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree too. And yeah, the way you just put that clip was really beautiful and poignant. And I think more people need to hear it. Like more men need to hear it. More black men specifically need to hear it. And then more people need to hear it. I think women need to hear it too, you know? So there's not that like pressure to put on like the men in your life, like that they have to be this like macho dude all the time. Like that is not strength. Like going around beating your chest, like pretending like you don't feel, that's easy. What's strong about that?
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's
like
true.
that's easy, you know, like talking about it, like crying, letting it out, like being human, like take guts. That shit is hard. I don't know why anyone would consider that weak. You know how hard it is to like feel your feelings, you know, like that shit is hard. That's incredible strength. And
Even
so,
harder to tell someone else.
and that part and yeah, and to moat in front of people and like yeah, let people see your weak spots, like showing vulnerability and being in front of someone and being like, I'm gonna show you this, and I'm gonna trust that you're not gonna use it against me. Like
Hmm.
what?
Hmm.
Like like that's crazy. That's crazy strength. So I'm glad y'all brought that up, and like I'm very proud to see y'all like yeah, just embrace that and move in that direction because we don't see it often. um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Just
true.
evolving on that aspect is tough, but it's needed.
It's
Hmm.
definitely needed.
It is. Yeah. Especially as fathers, right? Who like
Yeah.
have the next generation, like, because I mean that's how these cycles get continued. Like, no, because no one in the bloodline in the family stops it and be like, all right, this shit stops at me. You know, I'm gonna be the one to like create something new, and teach those that come after me to do something different. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's true. And as far as the generational things go, showing, like you said, showing the emotion, showing besides um the sadness, showing the happiness.
Mm.
We learn to be even keel all the time, to
Hmm.
not get too high, not get too low.
Mm.
So that's like our family. I'm not too sure how many other families were I can fit this mold, but like we didn't show much emotion towards each other. So we never really hugged, we never really kissed, we never really, really engaged with each other in that way. So that in turn, that despairs us against relationships, that despairs us against showing that love to our kids. Like I
Mm-hmm.
had
Hmm.
to learn how to um, show my child I appreciate her or I love
Mm.
her,
Yep.
and I'm still learning how being sensitive in those moments, how to get out of the awkwardness of it. Like
Yeah.
I've learned how to force hug my daughters and kiss them and tell them how much I love them and how happy I am, and it's still awkward to me sometimes, but it's like you have to you have to jump over that hurdle to realize this isn't awkward, this is real, this is
Mm.
what it should be. And if you don't teach them this now, they'll never learn it, or they'll learn it in a different
Absolutely.
way that will be subjective to whatever it can be in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Or even having those awkward conversations. Like that's very. I'd be like, how do I start this conversation? I gotta have a whole prep talk with myself before I have a conversation sometimes. So I mean, you learn and it comes, but look how long it's taken us to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. It's a process. It's a process and it is awkward. And I think the body, the body has memory. The body remembers trauma. The body remembers certain safety and defense mechanisms. And so even when we do something that is healthy, the body's like, like, what are you doing? Like, this deviates from like what I know. Like, what are you doing? And it could be,
Yeah.
like you said, like hugging having a conversation, something that we want to do, and the body's like, nah, don't do that. That's not safe. Like, wait, we gonna get hurt. Don't do that. Just give it a handshake. Like, and our mind can like, yeah, get the best of us. But yeah, I think doing it on the level of the body, like, is really powerful. And yeah, like the examples we set, I mean, one of the reasons I was so excited to like come on here and chat with y'all and to even grow closer to y'all is to also like heal the relationship I have with like what I think of masculinity as, right? My relationship, or what I think of as of men and like who they are, because I feel like the first people we learn from are our families, right? Our caretakers, our siblings, our cousins, our children, and so I don't know, I think it's just really powerful to do that, like right in your tribe, right in your family, right in your community. And like, what does
Mm-hmm.
that teach us about how we relate to other people outside of that, right? The people that we attract, the people we fall in love with, the people we marry, all that kind of stuff. Like, it all starts at home.
Very true.
Yeah.
Wow. And even um branch off into, I guess, relationship wise too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had a problem with feeling affection or emotion, being hugged or kissed, and for the longest time, I would reject all of that, and it really damaged a lot of my relationships. So like the people that I would date that weren't so affectionate, I I would be more into it. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
and
Yep.
and now that I'm with someone who's the opposite of that, it's like in the beginning it was just like, okay, I would get hugged and I would tense up, or I would get like a weird chill or shiver, like, oh, this is weird. But then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, don't, but don't stop. Like I have to. I'm going to get used to it. It's going to work. Bear with me, and that's when it's good to have someone who can um be patient with you and learn with you and try to take whatever steps it takes to break through whatever barriers that your family, your brain,
Mm-hmm.
the generational things set in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's deep. I never know that.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
very deep, Cliff.
I'm learning a lot. I'm like, God
Yeah.
damn, like y'all deep as fuck. Like, these my cousins, y'all. Like, yeah.
Like Ricky, were you ever an emotional person? Like as far as like affectionate?
I think it came as I got older.
Hmm.
When I was younger, no, not at
Same here.
Stone
all.
faced.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and you learn, I guess, being younger too, that sensitivity is a form of weakness. So
correct.
that, if I'm the nice, sweet, good guy, I'm gonna finish last.
Nice guys
So,
always finish last.
hmm so it's like, and then you would notice the bad guys or the the ones who are disrespectful winning the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, whoa, like, is this who I have to become in order to get out there, to date, to be noticed?
Right.
Hmm.
And it's a shame that was something that's big in society like that. And then that that creates more of a vicious circle because you're trying to become someone who you're really not, and you're trying to pretty much dog someone out, and women become hurt by it, and in turn hurt people, so now
Yep.
they want to become like the people who hurt them,
Hmm.
Correct.
and now women are becoming heartless, women are becoming emotionless, so now they're like, oh, I'm just gonna call you for when I need you, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna call you when I need you. So
Hmm.
then it's like you get faced with the, oh, you can't be too thirsty now,
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
and that all stems from just wearing that mask of,
I'm
I'm gonna
not
be
gonna.
who society makes me think I should be.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so true. And I often think about like just the ancestral history that black people have, what they went through during the times where they were enslaved. Like, they had to be tough. Like, they had to like suppress their feelings. Like, their whole survival was on the line, like, especially black men. Like, some of the stories you read about like what was going on and what like the masters on the plantation was doing, like
Hmm.
picking out the toughest man and like breaking him down in front of his family, and then like the role of the woman and the mother, like wanting to like coddle the son, protect the son. It's like so much like just dynamics going on there that happen that I believe we still carry in our DNA today, that we still have to like heal and like learn from. Like,
Yeah.
civil rights movement and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't that long ago. That was
Mm.
not that long ago. And so I feel like Black folks, we're making like great progress, but we have so much work to do. And I think a lot of it happens on the level of like the emotion, the heart. And a lot
Yeah.
of it has to do like with the family and like, yeah, Black women and men healing together, Black women healing together, and then Black men healing together, right? There's certain like things as a Black man, only another Black man can help you heal, right? Can help expose and can help talk about. And the same thing for Black women. Yeah, so yeah, shout out to Black folks healing because it ain't no
We
easy
need it.
thing.
It
Yeah,
really is.
it's yeah, we do need it. We do need it, and our healing is very layered. It's very difficult. It's a lot going on. So anyone that like even begins to open that up like is incredible, incredible because it's
And
tough work.
as you said, our brothers and sisters or kings and queens definitely need to come together and uplift each other and have each other's back like that. And that's an amazing thing when it all becomes such a cohesive thing.
Hmm.
That's something that's definitely needed.
Yeah, there's a big level I think of like mistrust between Black people, in the Black family, between Black men and women, and it shouldn't be like that. I walk down the street sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. There's a group of Black men. I'm like, I'm scared. Like, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, and that's terrible. That's
Yeah.
terrible that I feel that way. Like I should feel protected. I should be like, oh, yeah, it's my people. But like, there's so much mistrust that Black folks have towards each other, and understandably so. But yeah, that quote about like hurt people hurting people. I'm like, well, healed people gotta heal people, right? If hurt people, healed people must heal people. The other side
But
of
the
that
hurt
equation.
people have to want to be healed.
That part.
Mm.
It doesn't work if you don't want to be healed.
That part. That part. I'm triggered, Ricky. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm
No,
just
I'm
saying that's the
I'm
issue.
triggered. I'm triggered as someone who has tried to force healing on people in a way, like, or has gotten disappointed as a highly sensitive person that like someone's not opening up in the way that I thought they should. Like, it's
Yeah,
triggering.
they gotta want to be healed.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and they
Yeah,
have to know that that healing is something they can do themselves too, right? Like, we can't do anyone's work for them either.
that's true.
Yeah, healing does start with from within. So it's it's a long journey, but we
Yeah,
definitely need it in the Black community.
we do.
Well, Shay,
Yes.
thank you, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of our 4K podcast. We like to call this like a little interlude, side story, whatever you want to call these episodes
The
here.
healing episode.
I
Healing
like that.
episode. I
Thanks
like
for
it.
having me.
Definitely, definitely. You could come back at any time.
Yeah,
Oh, say less.
we're definitely gonna have to have another one. This
Now
is
we're gonna
a lot
infiltrate
of
the
people need to
podcast.
hear this.
Yeah,
No, but thanks for having me. I
you
enjoyed
got an
it.
open invitation. So
Bet.
All right, well, thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the
Thank y'all.
4K podcast, and we're signing out.
thank y'all for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.